Come on in, everybody. Grab your coffee. It's almost time for Coffee with Scott Adams. Come on in, everybody. Good morning, good morning. How is everybody? The Bill Gates interview about Trump? I didn't. I read something about it. He just said he thought Trump could be pragmatic and he thought he could work with him, right? First day on Periscope? Good morning, morning. Well, you need to finish The Religion War. It's got the worst ending you've ever seen in a book. Intentionally. Just remember I told you that it's an intentional worst ending you've ever seen in a book. And then you'll try to figure out why. Why did I do it intentionally? And the answer is, you're never going to forget it. That's why. The book is called The Religion War. And it's the sequel to my book, God's Debris. It's fiction. And all the cool people have read it. Seems to agree with me. Who's that? Bill Gates? You just watched my Christmas scope? Oh, Gates, okay. Oh, when am I coming to Italy? I really should. It's on my... oh, you've got How to Fail at Everything? Good. Thank you. How many of you got one of my books or calendars for Christmas? I'm looking into podcasting solutions right now. Yes. Wow. Really? All of you got some kind of Dilbert product for Christmas? I think my cartoon was, I think my calendar was the #1 calendar bestseller in its category. What? So what I'm looking into doing is, and this is very tentative, so I'll just tell you what I'm up to. There's a software called OBS, Open Broadcast System or something, free software, that you can download for your Mac, and it will take inputs from various sources. Bought them before Christmas. All right, I like that you're ahead of time. So the OBS software allows you to take inputs, I think, from what I'm reading about it, from different sources. Or in other words, different cameras can look at me for the same broadcast. So I could have, I don't know if this will work yet, but I think I could have Facebook Live and Periscope Live and YouTube Live all at the same time. And then I could just save them and they become my podcasts. Can you imagine? There's something very important happening, like in terms of a shift in society. And see if this looks right to you. So if you go back in history, we had monarchs, right? Before there was any democratic processes, there were monarchs. And then we improved on that by creating a republic. Now, it has democratic elements in it, but it's a republic. We vote for our leaders, and then the leaders go and make laws for us for the most part. But because that wasn't working as well as we wanted, states started doing these propositions. And the propositions are direct democracy. So it bypasses our republic. Like the republic wasn't working, because in many ways it wasn't. So a lot of these propositions on the ballot are a way to bypass the fact that the republic wasn't working. Our representatives weren't doing what we wanted, so we bypassed them and directly put stuff into law. Now add to that social media. Social media totally kneecapped mainstream media this year. Trump won because of social media, and there's no question about it. All right? I think historians would agree. Now, although Trump also dominated regular media, the way he dominated regular media, to a large extent, is because what he did on social media was so interesting. So mainstream media became just a tail that got wagged by social media. Now, what's different about social media, follow me on this, will you? All right? Because I'm going someplace cool on this. Trust me, I think I am. On social media, you have something closer to a true democracy in the sense that anybody who has a good thought can put that thought out there. And if it's good enough, somebody will share it and magnify it, and then more people will share it, and it will become viral. So we've created a system that is an improvement on democracy in a way, because it's not just lots of people get together and vote on the same question. It's anybody in the world can raise any question, any point, or any argument, and the best ones fight it out in sort of this rapid evolution, where the bad ones die and the good ones become viral. So we now have a system where someone like me, who has a little bit of a platform, so I can get some purchase anytime I say something. No matter what I say, if I say it publicly, there'll be hundreds or thousands of people who will see it. So that's enough of a seed start for an idea that if it's good, it will spread worldwide. So we have this weird situation where, for all practical purposes, on the things that I care about, I'm in charge of the world. Now, let me say that a different way, because it's sort of a striking idea. So the first time you hear it, doesn't make any sense. It has to be explained a little bit. For the topics I care about, and let's just pick a topic. Let's say that what I cared about was legalizing doctor-assisted dying. In other words, assisted suicide with your doctor helping you. And let's say that's a topic I cared about, which it was and is. And so I said things on the internet which became insanely viral. I talked about that topic. It was the most viral thing I've ever done. And very soon after, the laws started passing exactly the way I wanted them to pass. Now, was I individually influential in making that happen? Probably, to some extent, right? Because it was so viral and it was a pretty impactful piece I wrote. This is several years ago. So, in effect, there is democracy, but the leaders or the republic part of it, where you nominate, a representative to go to Washington and vote for you, that's less important. What happened was, and bear with me on this, if I said something that people liked, and in the case of the doctor-assisted suicide a few years ago, I wrote a blog that a lot of people liked. They shared it, it became viral. In effect, I became your representative because I said something that so corresponded to what you wanted to say that you forwarded the blog post and became viral, and it became, yes, my girlfriend is hot. And so in a way, social media has recreated the idea of a republic. So instead of having a representative who votes on all the different topics, you can effectively nominate your own representative for a topic. And that representative could be so influential only because so many people have forwarded it and liked it and passed it around on social media that the mainstream media can't ignore it. And then eventually the politicians can't ignore it because the cry of the people is too big. So we now have a new system of government. It just happened. Nobody planned it, right? It just sort of happened, which I would say is probably an improvement. And I'll summarize that again. So we started with, long ago there were monarchs, and then we built our republic. And then the republic became a little more democratic in nature because people were voting for propositions in states. So we got a little more democratic. And then the social media came, and now you've reproduced a republic model, but the leaders for the republic, the representatives, if you will, are chosen as needed instead of having an election. So if, for example, you liked something I wrote on the assisted dying, you could give me lots of attention, share things, pass it around, like it a lot, and I would become, for all practical purposes, your representative on just that topic. So in effect, I would become the government, working in concert with all the people who would support that side of a topic. And I think that's amazing. It's amazing that our Constitution has been essentially rewritten in a practical way, and nobody did anything. It just sort of drifted into something cool. Let me give you another example. Coffee. When Donald Trump was first running for president, there were a lot of people who said to themselves, I like that guy, but the media is saying he's shit and he's dangerous and he's stupid and he's a clown. Then I started writing in my blog that he wasn't a clown, and that he was actually a persuader, and he was smart, and he used business strategy and all that. Well, because enough people liked that point of view, my blog caught on fire. The entire mainstream media was following it by election time, and you could see my ideas. I think you could all see it, right? You could see the things that I was saying, the framing I was putting on things, eking its way into the national conversation. Yeah, so for a lot of people have said the same thing, that I calmed people down when they thought that Trump couldn't win or that he might be dangerous. So probably more than anybody, I solved that. So in effect, I felt I was just writing some opinions on my blog, like I always do. But because the public, the democracy part of our republic, the folks liked what I said so much, they effectively promoted me to their representative for just that topic. You know, the topic of Trump. Is he dangerous? Should we vote for him? That topic. And so for a while, I was an unelected, at least in the classic sense, unelected representative of the government. I acted like a member of the Republic who had been nominated by the people to keep saying things that they agreed with, but didn't have the voice or didn't have the framing or didn't have the, maybe the eloquence to say it. And so I got pushed in front of the parade. I didn't volunteer to be in front of the parade, at least on this topic. I got pushed because I said something that people liked. So in effect, I got elected temporarily to be some kind of representative of the people. Did the best job I could, because believe me, I took it seriously. When you have thousands and thousands of people asking you to do the same thing, and it seems well-intentioned and it seems good for the world and the country, you can't really not do it, right? Too many people want it. It's too much of a public good. What happens when the persuaders co-opt the system? Well, that's a really interesting question. What happens when the persuaders co-opt the system? And the answer is the persuaders have already co-opted the system. I just gave you an example. I basically co-opted part of the system for this election. There are other people who are persuasive who are co-opting the other topics, and they own them because they're persuasive. So you're really describing the situation we're in already. So you can watch it in action. It's actually different from elite rule. I would say the elite have lost control entirely, and that what matters now is the best idea, as captured by the the collective will of the people. And my ego is off-putting. Let's talk about ego. I talk a lot about the master persuader filter, or the persuasion filter, as a way of viewing the world. If you view the world through a standard lens, then I'm just a guy with a big ego and it's off-putting, just like you said. If you view the world through the persuasion filter, if you talk about your ego for a while. If you view it through the persuasion filter, ego is better viewed as a tool. It's a tool of persuasion. The first thing it does is persuade yourself, right? So you have to talk yourself into something before you can talk somebody else into it. So I see ego as nothing but a tool that I can ramp up and ramp down, but it's a tool that has some costs, and one of the costs is what you just witnessed, which is some people say, "My God, your ego is big. What's wrong with you?" So that's the cost of manipulating your ego. But I do it intentionally. I do it because manipulating my ego feels really good. That's exactly why I do it, and it makes me more effective. So if I could feel good and be effective, but the only cost to me is that some people with weak egos are put off by it, I'm sorry that people with weak egos are injured by anybody who feels good about themselves or their capabilities. I wish that weren't the case, but I'm not really going to manage my life to that. There's a limit to how much you can do to keep other people happy. Thoughts on the alt-right and Richard Spence? I don't have too many thoughts on that, just because he's just off doing his own thing, and I don't think it has much to do with any of us. Manipulating your ego, give us an example. Well, so for example, I allow myself to think I'm good at things I am good at, and to talk about it. If somebody asks me, I'll tell them my honest opinion. I'll try not to exaggerate, but I'll tell people my actual opinion of whether I'm good at things or not. But I'll also say if I'm bad at something. It's sort of the upstate New York way of doing things. Trump does the same thing, by the way. What you see as a big ego in Trump, and what you see as an incredibly obnoxious way of talking, is what we like to call from New York State, those of us who were born and raised in New York State, we call that just talking. And we say it like that, talking. Talking? How do regular people say talk? 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 We call it talking. Somebody from New York here agreeing with me. No, it's not. Well, it's certainly not true for 100% of people. But I would say there's one characteristic that New Yorkers have, including upstate New Yorkers, is that we're not offended by stuff. We just don't get offended by things, more outrageous things. It's just a more outrageous kind of culture where you say something that would be deeply offensive in California, and in New York it's just talking. It doesn't offend. It isn't even meant to offend. It's just talking. Yeah, you laugh, exactly. All right, let me tell you another. And this is something I've never talked about because I wasn't sure I knew how to say it without getting myself in trouble. But I think I'll just go ahead and do it anyway. Here's what people don't understand about ethnic jokes, racial jokes, and also dead baby jokes, any form of horrible jokes where something bad happened to somebody, handicap jokes, the ones that are most offensive. If you lump them all together, let's say ethnic jokes, handicap jokes, the ones you really shouldn't say in public, the ones that are not appropriate, etc. The thing people don't understand about that is that people who enjoy that kind of jokes, they enjoy it for two different reasons. Sometimes they just might be racist and they're saying, ha ha, good one, you just said a racist thing and I'm a racist and I totally agree with that. So sometimes it's that. But most of the times it's not. Most of the time the reason is somebody is laughing at a racist joke or a dead baby joke or a handicapped person joke or any of these deeply inappropriate things is not because the joke is funny. It's because it's inappropriate. It's the inappropriate part that makes you laugh. So the thing that the very few people understand, because it turns out most people don't have a sense of humor of any kind. Probably a third of the world doesn't have any kind of sense of humor. And I mean that. I mean a third of the world just doesn't have, the same way people don't have musical sense, not everybody, a third of the world just doesn't have a sense of humor. They just actually pretend they do, but they don't. So what's funny about those jokes that are offensive is that they are offensive. So what you're laughing at is the fact that they shouldn't have been told and they're terrible. So a lot of the times, the people who have participated in the most egregious, inappropriate jokes don't agree with anything in the joke, but it's the not agreeing with it that makes it funny because it shouldn't have been said. It's so deeply offensive. If somebody heard it, they would be terribly offended. Now, by the way, I'm not defending any kind of inappropriate jokes. I try not to do them. But the fact is that the people laughing at them are not laughing at the people in the joke. All right, not all the time. Sometimes probably yes. Kids, there's some terrible people, there's some racists, blah, blah. So sometimes people are laughing at the people in the joke. But my guess is 75% of the time, the people who are laughing because the joke shouldn't have been made in the first place. It's just so deeply inappropriate that it just causes a laugh reflex. Most stereotypes are rooted in a degree of truth. Not really. That is not my observation. Most stereotypes are not rooted in, except for gender ones. I think gender ones have, more of something in them that's true, but certainly not the racial stuff. If you think that racial jokes have a seed of truth in them, I would say that's probably confirmation bias. They say all Brits drink tea and have bad breath. Most of them do. Well, I don't think that's the case that most Brits have bad breath, but I stereotyped upstate New York. Yeah, because that's an actual place with an actual culture. Places do have cultures, but that's different than race. How can you be comfortable with the coming administration? It's easy. Just the reason I'm comfortable is that I'm not suffering from the same confirmation bias that the people who are afraid are. So once you learn what confirmation bias is, and you learn to recognize it, and you learn to recognize it in yourself, once you know what confirmation bias is, you can see it everywhere, and you can see it in yourself. And keep in mind, you also need some perspective, that most of the Republican administrations were called Hitler racists who are going to ruin the world, blah, blah, blah. So we're not good at predicting how things are going to go. Why don't they attack you for retweeting Sarah Silverman? Who would attack me for that? Do you have confirmation bias for confirmation bias? Well, you could, I suppose. Supreme Court will be bad for things you believe in. Well, here's the thing with the Supreme Court. Let me put a new frame on this. The thing that people care about in the Supreme Court, that's sort of a Republican-Democrat difference, would be on abortion and gay rights. And those are sort of the only things I know of that are floating out there that anybody cares about. Is there anything else? Oh, Second Amendment. All right, so guns, abortion, and gay rights. Is there anything else anybody cares about for the Supreme Court? All right, let's just say those are the three things. Let's take them one at a time. Guns, the Supreme Court won't change anything, all right? So if you're asking me, am I afraid that the Supreme Court will do bad things with Trump nominees, I would say, well, first of all, they won't do anything about gun rights, but I'm pro-gun. I'm okay with states putting some common sense restrictions on, I don't think children should have guns and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not worried about guns because nothing's going to change. I'm not worried about any gay rights stuff because that's, as Trump said, it's all settled. All right. The court spoke. Gays can get married. I think society has sort of moved on. You'll have little stuff like, who can make a gay wedding cake, and I think society will work through that stuff. I think capitalism will take care of most of it because it's going to be tough. Imagine having a business where making wedding cakes is an important part of your business. All right, just imagine this. Now imagine that you've just pissed off every gay wedding planner because you won't have a gay cake, and you've pissed off all the people who might be attending weddings that are not gay weddings, but they're just and they're just they're just people attending the weddings. I don't think people can stay in business that long, denying business to gay customers. In the long run, in the short run, of course they can. In the long run, they'll just disappear. So I'm not terribly worried about the Supreme Court because so far I'm pro-gay rights, and so has the court been, and I don't see anything that's going to change it. So I'm not worried about that. Then the last thing is abortion. And let me put a new frame on this. You're going to like this. All right? Listen to this. Let me ask a question first. Tell me if you're pro-abortion, what's that? Pro-choice. Is there anybody on here who is pro-abortion? Anybody? Anybody? Pro-life? Yes. Pro-life. Pro-choice. Yeah. I just want to make sure we have some pro-choice people on here, so this is more fun. Pro-choice. Okay, so we have a good mix of pro-choice. Oh, lots of them. Okay. So if you're pro-choice and you see Trump getting ready to nominate a Supreme Court justice who's going to be against choice, you say to yourself, holy shit, I don't want this. This is like a big freaking deal because this is a law I care about, and Trump might do something to change it. Let me put a different frame on this, right? I'm going to reframe this question, and I'm not going to change any information. I'm just going to frame it differently. And here's the question. For those of you who are pro-choice only, right? So the rest of you just stay silent for a second. I'm going to ask this question for just the pro-choice people. If I said to you, do you want Donald Trump to be making decisions about abortion in any way? Do you want him involved, or let's say the federal government? Do you think the federal government should make decisions about what you can and can't do with your body? Who thinks the federal government should make decisions about your body? You think the federal government should decide what you can do with your body? Yeah. So guess what? I just framed that as Donald Trump's opinion, and I made every one of you agree with it except one person. All right? So if I frame it as, should abortions be illegal or not, then people just line up on either side. But that's not what Trump's doing. All right? He hasn't done a good job of framing it yet, but watch, he will. And here's how he's going to frame it. The frame is not whether abortion should be legal or not, because Trump has not taken that side. He said personally what he prefers, but from the perspective of the government, you know what he said? Wait for it, wait for it. What Donald Trump said about abortion is that he, Donald Trump, and the rest of the federal government should stay out of it. He said what you said, right? So whether you're pro-abortion or against abortion, you all agree that Donald Trump shouldn't make the decision for you. Guess what? That's his precise position. His position, Donald Trump, is that he should not be involved in any way making your abortion decision. Think about that. That's literally and exactly what he's saying. He's just saying it wrong, because he's saying it in a way that sounds like he's taking your rights away. He's not. He's literally trying to take his own rights away so you'll have more of them. Now, the result of that might be some states will have, might restrict abortion rights. And you don't like that. But that is between you and your state. And that's where the fight should be, because the closer it is to the individual, you know, the smaller the form of government, the more you could influence it to get what you want. Now, some people will probably leave the state. Some employers will not move into states because they don't like how the laws are in that state. So a lot of that stuff's going to break out. But the fact is, if I framed the question on abortion and said to you, do you think Donald Trump and the federal government should have any role in deciding whether you have an abortion or not, both the pro-choice and the anti-choice people would say, no, I don't think the government should be making decisions like that. So if you think about it, what Trump wants is to just get out of the business of managing your body, because it's not the business of the federal government. Think about that. And so if you ask me why I'm not worried about it, I am worried about any restrictions to abortion rights, but I'm worried on behalf of the women who want those rights. My larger opinion on abortion is that men, such as me, should basically take the lead of women. So my view on abortion is that people like me, men who do not have wombs and will never get pregnant, we still have the right to vote on anything we want. But in terms of telling women what opinion they should have about their own bodies and how that law should be crafted, the most credible law is one that women support. And as soon as you add men into the vote, the credibility of whatever comes out the other side, whether they vote for it or against it, is less credible. Because let's face it, men do not have the same skin in the game as women, obviously. They have some, but they don't have as much. And they don't have the same risk in society. They don't get discriminated against because they might have children or they do have children. So it really is very much a woman's decision to make, not logically, not rationally, and not because the Constitution says so. None of those things. I'm saying that for a law like this, where life and death is literally the question, you want the law to be the most credible law it can be. And to do that, you want the women to be mostly on one side and the men to say, okay, I hear what you say, women, we're just going to get behind that. Because take the men out of the decision. By the way, when people ask me, am I conservative because, or am I Republican because I said good things about Trump in this election, I usually surprise them by saying that I'm not only socially liberal, but I'm so liberal that other liberals don't recognize me. And this is my best example of that. So the conservative view is, hey, don't have an abortion, make it illegal. The liberal view is that, hey, let's everybody vote. Men and women will get together, we'll vote, and most of us want abortion rights, so let's have it. That's the liberal view. That is way too conservative for me. I'm way more liberal than that. I think the far more liberal view, and the one that I hold, is that men should largely take a back seat in this question because credibility matters for a law like this. You just want to get the credibility right, and then you'll be okay. But women can vote for more war, but men have to fight and die. True. And if there were a draft that only drafted men, I would say that some of what I said about abortion could be applied there as well. Or at least I think it would be fair to have that conversation. But we do have a volunteer army. And we have a volunteer army that changes the nature of, what is coercion, what is out of your control, what is naturally the situation, what is you just decided to make it your situation. Talk about the relationship between abortions and minorities. I'm not terribly informed on that, but I would say if you read the book Freakonomics, I think it was in Freakonomics, there was a very provocative part of that in which they thought that crime, what did they say? That crime went down because abortion became legal. And so there were fewer unwanted babies that they assumed would be lower income babies that would grow up into a criminal world and become criminals. So that's a very unexpected outcome of abortion. Censoring social media, what about it? Damn it, I scratched my nose as soon as you said that. Rogan is patio? What's patio? Oh, that was debunked, the study about abortion and crime. Rogan is PSYOP. Rogan is ducking Cernovich. I don't know about that. Obama said if he could have run again, he would have won. Yeah, totally. He definitely would have won. It's hard to beat an incumbent unless the whole world is falling apart, and it doesn't look like that to me. Do you have any libertarian viewpoints? Probably. I can't. The whole label thing, I try to stay out of it, because the moment you say I'm a libertarian or I'm a little bit libertarian, then everybody just goes nuts. The reason I use my label of ultra-liberal is because nobody else uses it, so I can just imbue that with whatever meaning I want. Biden? No, Biden would have been destroyed. So the problem with Biden is he looks like an uninteresting Trump. The killing of babies is the worst solution of all. Well, they're only babies if you think they're babies. That's the word thinking problem. So most of the abortion question has no actual thought or logic or anything in it. It's just people have an emotional reaction to it, and they want to win their argument by pounding things into a label. I think I'll win my argument by saying this is alive. I think I'll win my argument by saying it's not alive, or just some ridiculous stuff about how long it can live without the mother. These are all random convenience definitions. They're not based on any, base reality. A pro-life argument. Play devil's advocate and make a pro-life argument. The pro-life argument for abortion. Yeah, all right. We'll do that for you. But I'm going to give you so I was asked here to make a pro-life argument, and just as a devil's advocate, and I'm going to do it. But I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to give you the special case pro argument. And the special case is, let's say I'm the President of the United States, right? If you ask me, the President of the United States is the only person in the country who should always be pro-life all the time and in all the gray areas. And by that I mean pro-life for American citizens, because that's the job of the president. So, and here's why. I think an individual can make the hard decision about abortion, but you don't want the president making that decision, right? Because you don't ever want a situation in which a president of the country, who's more about the brand of the country, right? Your governor is not really the brand of the country. It's just the president. Your senators are not. Your Congress people are not. It's only the president. He's the brand, or she is the brand. And I think you want the brand, the president, to be pro-life all the time and simply not have to make those decisions where the states can. So, all right, I'll stop walking. So I would say that the safest world is where your president says, I'm not going to make an opinion for the rest of you. Let the states figure it out. But I, as your brand, as the president, say that I'm not going to call gray areas. I'm not going to allow the death penalty, even if you murdered somebody. I'm not going to allow abortion, even if you've defined it as not alive. No, I don't. Allow is the wrong word. I'm not going to favor it, right? So as president of the United States, as the brand representative for the country, you should be pro-life in every situation, not just abortion. Now, that is different from saying that I prefer those positions, because the president should say, I'm pro-life, period. If you're an American, it's my job to take care of you. And guess what? If you're sort of an American, I'm also going to take care of you. And by sort of an American, I mean you've committed a serious crime and you normally would get the death penalty, or you're a fetus 2 months old. You're sort of an American, but it's a gray area. So I think the president should take the pro-life position on every gray area, and then push those decisions to individuals and to the states for the actual hard choices. So the president would be a branding decision and just say pro-life all the time. If you're an American, I'm just pro-life. That's my job. I'm not even giving it a personal opinion. I'm just saying, as president, if you're an American or maybe an American or a gray area American, let me give you another example of that. You know famously that our special forces, Marines and such, will not leave a wounded or dead comrade on the field, right? They'll risk their life and die trying to get a comrade's body back. That's pro-life, right? And again, there must be plenty of situations in which that's just a bad idea to risk living people to get a body back on a battlefield. There must be lots of reasons where that's a bad idea and people will die. But what matters is the psychology of it, right? The psychology of it is you're going to battle with people who if you're on that battlefield, even dead, they're going to get you off that battlefield, right? That changes your psychology going in. Likewise, The brand of the United States is the president. And if the president says, hey, my brand is, if you're American, you take care of Americans, and you take the dead ones off the battlefield, you keep the fetuses alive, I'm not going to get in a conversation about whether something is almost an American. Is a dead body still American? How about yes? All right? Is an unborn baby 1 month, or a fetus 1 month old still an American? If you're president of the United States, the best answer is yes, because you don't want to be calling who's an American and who's not, and you just keep them all alive. But if you're a state and you've got to make the tough decisions, and some of your citizens want legal abortion, I think you can do that and still be in disagreement with the president who's really about the psychology of the country. All right, that was my best pro-life argument. But it only applies to the president. It doesn't apply to anybody else. Why is Obama staying in D.C.? Well, I would think all his connections are there. That makes sense. I'm stalling on the book right now. That's why I'm doing this. So I think I'm going to go. You didn't give a moral argument, though. No, there is no moral argument, because morality is subjective. So your morality and mine are not the same. So a moral argument is sort of a contradiction, because argument implies there's some logic or reason involved, and morality is the opposite of that. So a moral argument, it would be like, what do they say, military intelligence and stuff like that. Do I rollerblade? No. Morality is ethics applied to the situation. Well, all you did is some word thinking, and you just said morality and ethics are the same, so you could make a point. But there was no actual point you made there. All you did is you moved some words around. Bong hits with Scott Adams. I'm actually thinking of doing that. I've only golfed a little bit, so I'm not good. Christine and I have been together since beginning of the summer, early summer. I've known her longer, but we've only been girlfriend, boyfriend for a while. The hardest thing about rollerblading. See, that was a perfect example of what was funny is that it was an inappropriate joke. Like, I'm not making fun of the person in the joke. It's funny because it's inappropriate. Going to Deplorable? No, I wish it were in the summer or a better place. I like it when people throw out questions just to see if I'll answer. So, how often do y'all have sex? just to see if I'll maybe bite on that one. How much do you need to invest with you? You mean for WenHub? We're looking for millions, in the low millions, when we go out for money in January. But we're looking for a number of individuals have contacted me, so we'll bunch them up and see if there's something we can do for smaller investors who want to be part of it. Because I like the fact that people are asking. Will I accept Bitcoin? Have you ever been in a fist fight? I've been in fights that surprisingly didn't involve a lot of fists, but I've been in fights. High school. They didn't involve fists just because I won the fights fairly quickly. One of them involved a club. One of them involved shoving grass down a kid's mouth. But yeah, the only fights I've been in, I won. I would never get in a fight I wasn't going to win. There are only two things you should do, fight-wise. If you think you might lose, run away. Period. Just run away. And if you still need to kill that person later, get a weapon and come back. Right? But why would you get in a fight that you might lose? That would be the dumbest thing anybody ever did. Yeah, so the only fights I've been in, I made sure that I ended them within seconds, because you don't want to be in a long fight. I'll leave comments open on my blog until they get too bad. I haven't been terribly pleased with what I've seen so far, but people want it, so I'll keep it there for a while. Is Trump actually a Republican? I think Republicans are now Trump. So Republican will change. It will become him. It's hard for me to watch UFC except like I'd watch an accident on the highway. Steemit. Steemit is financially, I'll look at Steemit. I've heard of it. I don't know what that's all about. Most people in fights think they're going to win. No, I don't think so. I think most people in fights think that they don't want to back down. Maybe there's some confidence, overconfidence, but I think they just don't want to back down, especially if people are watching, or they're drunk, or they always get in fights. There are a lot of bad reasons to get in fights. Trump dragged the Republicans into the present. Well, he's still dragging, but I know what you mean. The rise of future Trumpian leaders, I doubt it, just because he's one of a kind. I can't imagine you could have a second one of Donald Trump. You know, someone else might do something equally impressive, but they're going to do it their own way. Yeah, men just don't want to be seen as pussies and have to live their whole life knowing they back down. Guy attacked with a bat and you had to fight back? Jeez. Do I approve of hitting girlfriends if they try to fight you? I'm going to say no on that. Here I'm assuming that there's a power differential. So no, I don't approve of fighting when there's a big power differential, or anytime really. Would you revenge kill someone if they killed Christina? Yes, I would. All right, I'm going to go off and write my book that I'm avoiding. And I will see all of you later.